listen to this video. Make sure you listen to this video. Comment and share this video.
Then Tinubu have kept to his campaign promises. Throughout the campaign, he consistently maintained that he will continue from where Buhari stopped. And that is done very well. I would say excellent. I'll give him excellent pass mark. And it's very simple. It's chance. Dollar was 460, is now 1,005. Fuel was 238, is now about 700. Diesel was 844, is now 1,415. A bag of rice is 35,000, is now about 80. A bag of beans was similar, 35, is now about 90. Gari was 27.28, is now 49.50. A tuber of yam was about 2,007 to 3,000, now is about 10,000. Tomato basket is about 40,000, that is over 150,000. Electricity is 66 kilowatts, is now over 200. You can go on and on. Our debts, even bread, which is a basic thing other countries that subside, like Egypt, bread, smaller, medium bread was 450 naira. It's not 900 naira. The big one is 900, is 1,005. Our debt, like I mentioned, was 87. By end of last year, it was actually 97. The highest we've done within that short period. Now is over 100 trillion. In fact, this year alone, the government, through the Central Bank of Nigeria, have issued and taken from the system borrowing of over 16 trillion naira. You can imagine the interest at almost 20%. It's about 3.2 trillion after 12 months. At that, last year, in a period of 9 months, we spent about 5.7 trillion servicing as debt interest on our payment. So add that. So overall, you've done well. Let's even go back to the overall of the economy. By the time he took over last year, we were still the biggest economy in Africa with $477 billion as our GDP, followed by South Africa, Egypt, Algeria, and Morocco. Today, we are number 4. South Africa is number 1 now, I think about $373 billion. Egypt is second, $347 billion, followed by Algeria, 266. And we are now 252 billion GDP economy. It's even worse when you go to our per capita. We are actually 1/4 of per capita of the list of these nations that I mentioned. South Africa is over 6,000 per capita. Egypt is 4,000 plus. So is Algeria. And then Morocco, which among this is supposed to be the 5th, at 4,210, and we are 1,000 plus. So we actually gone low. We're coming from a low of per capita of 3,000 plus in 2014. So with every other thing have headed south. You see, insecurity is worsened. Well, corruption has worsened.
Let's
adherence to the rule of law has worsened. The country has been nepotism is at the highest.
The tragedy of Nigeria began in 1986 when we did the structural adjustment program. When we were persuaded to devalue our currency every week for 32 years. When I went to school, and many of you are here, the naira was $1.50. The naira was almost £1 sterling. They came here, persuaded some brilliant men from Harvard and the World Bank that weekly devaluation was wonderful. 32 years of devaluing your currency until we hit 527. And they were still telling us that the naira was still overvalued. That brought poverty, misery upon us. Then interest rates went to 30%. So nobody could build a factory, start a farm, produce anything, or create jobs. Because every time you bring in a shipload of rice, you also bring in a shipload of unemployment. Because you are transferring your wealth to sustain other economies. Somehow, Nigerians didn't notice it. So we became a nation of importers. Toothpicks. Each year it cost us $18 million. Importing toothpicks. Tomato paste, $400 million. So you talked about tomatoes now. One basket in town now is less than 2,000 naira. The farmers are losing money because the processors don't have enough funds to set up factories. They are going to do tomato paste. It's food-grade stainless steel. You can't just use anything because you'll be putting poison in people's stomachs. 2 factories have started off. I believe by the middle of next year, we can comfortably tell importers of tomato paste to stop. But when you do, you make enemies. Even the rice we're trying to reduce, we have enemies, heavy enemies, people who can kill if they have a chance, because you're spoiling their business. And let nobody take it lightly. These guys have seized this country's economy, they've taken us hostage, and they have no intention of giving up. Because this is a huge market, a very sweet market, and they have taken control. And I'm saying it because I have been in this business for 41 years and I can tell you some history. Abdullah Adamu is here. Import milk, sugar, toothpicks, toothpaste, handkerchiefs, pencils. We don't make. To cure Nigerians of that malady will take a while. It will take a strong government. That's the truth. And they're not happy that we're cutting down. When we cut down, they lose money there. So you see all sorts of publications. We're telling lies. We're not growing rice. We're trying to demoralize the local farmers and make sure that the economy fails. That's the story of imports. Now, I read a story recently in the newspapers. The French ambassador, the champagne ambassador in Nigeria, gave an article to The Guardian. He said Nigerians love life. We're the biggest consumers of champagne on planet Earth. More than the French who make it. There are parties you attend in some places where they only drink champagne. Of course, the individual is free to spend his money, but his money comes from Nigeria's commonwealth. So on imports, it will take a while for us to get used to local goods and accept that we should consume what we produce and produce what we want to consume. So I take your point. We have to take stern measures to cut down on imports because these young boys and girls who have no jobs today are not going to allow us to carry on enjoying life at their expense. They need jobs. They need jobs. They are children. They've graduated, they've come back home to begin a second childhood because there's no factory to employ them. And the ministries can't take any more. But somebody is making sure you fail when you want to produce at home.
Nigeria today is a country with the highest amount of people without homes. Over 24 million. Yet, you're spending 20-something billion to build a house for one person. Mr. Johnson, are you saying that a vice president of Nigeria cannot live in a 4-bedroom house? You live in the UK. 10 Downing Street is 3 rooms. That is an economy that is almost 10 times our economy today. And the Prime Minister lives in 3 rooms.
Do you know that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu protested against President Ebele Jonathan? Do you know that President Buhari protested against President Ebele Jonathan? Dino Malaye protested against President Ebele Jonathan. Pastor Adeboye with his member, that's ROCCG General Overseer, protested against against President Ebele Jonathan. The Vice President Yomi Osibajo also came out to protest during President Ebele Jonathan's tenure. Nasir El-Rufai also came out to protest. Then to crown it up, Wole Soyinka protested against President Ebele Jonathan. He was among the people that fought President Ebele Jonathan during his government. Let's rewind back to what Bayo Onanuga tweeted during President Jonathan's tenure. My takes on today's protest: it was the best general strike ever in our country. Peaceful but marred by some. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu tweeted that police do not attack protesters. Your children are involved. Your lives are involved. Your children's future lies here. These are the same people who are agitating that we should not come out to protest. Now ask yourself this question: is it anti-government, tribalism, nepotism, and anti-party? These are things that are really affecting Nigerians in general.
On the issue of protests, within the Nigerian constitution, protesting allowed. All I plead for those who are protesting is to do so within the law and in a civil manner that allows us as a nation to show that we live within the law. You know, everybody knows the things that are difficult. I always say, when they talk about sponsors of the protest, I say the sponsors are very simple. It's hunger. It's hopelessness among the youths. So we all have to listen to what Nigerians are going through. And I thank our governor for doing so. It is critical and important.
Okay.
Well, what I said to security agencies is that we will then ensure that they manage the situation, again, within the law. You know, we should not try to be overbearing. It should be something that we do within the law. There's nothing wrong. Protest is allowed everywhere globally. And I also say people protest in my house. And it's for us to listen to those who are protesting. Why are they protesting? Engage them. That's what governance is all about. You talk with them. There's nothing wrong in that. I was governor for years and people protested.
It would be very, very unfair to say that things are not difficult now. Things are very difficult. Hunger is real, so and that is true. But how do you solve the problem? The problem we find ourselves in the country today is economic. And will I say that we are actually paying the price for bad governance that didn't start today? First of all, for you to organize protest, the law requires that you get approval from the security forces, particularly the police. And somebody should take responsibility for getting that approval. So if you don't have the approval, then it will be against the law for you to go out on the street to protest. So my final word is that people should think about the implications of pouring out on the streets, restricting movement of other people, and possibly inflicting harm and more hardship on the people. For people in Abia, my advice is that people should not pour out on the streets because it may be more hurtful than the protest that we actually, the reason for the protest that people are calling for. That would be my final word. Thank you very much.